Hi there, Ross Quintana with Social Magnets. Thanks for tuning in and sitting with me for a few minutes as I'm going to run through a little summary overview of some of the high points of the blog post that I just wrote. My latest blog post is from 5,000 to 100,000 Twitter followers, what I've learned. And in this blog post, I cover everything. We start with tips from the beard. That's right, it's my new series. It's going to be an offshoot series, Tips from the Beard. Shouts out to Brian Fanzo, who partially inspired me in our beard conversation. The first thing that I cover in this post, a lot of people want to build their social audience, and a lot of people look at what I'm doing and they're like, okay, well, what strategy are you use, or what tools do you use? And this is a follow-up post from my first post, which was 0 to 5,000 followers, what I learned. And then a year later, I'm following up with 5,000 to 100,000. So, I'm a strategist at heart. So for me, I love connecting with people. I love technology and social media. I'm a growth hacker, so I like to do things smarter and faster and leverage all of the actions that I take for the maximum benefit. And I realize that there's a lot of people who would love to grow their audience and their influence online. And that's part of what my brand, Social Magnets, is all about. And so what I cover in the very first, I broke these down into separate videos, so you can see and get more detailed information on those. This is just going to be a quick summary of kind of some of the things that I cover, plus a few extra little tidbits. But if you want more, definitely check out the playlist. I'll put a link to it in the post. But, I start off with tips from the beard, and I talk about momentum and how powerful that is, and some of the surprises in a way of momentum and how you can build momentum in your social media growth strategy, and how it starts to kind of help you and push you along in growth. In the beginning, it really, when you have no momentum, it feels like you're just, you're doing a bunch of stuff, and even that stuff isn't necessarily producing a result right away. But as you are consistent and you're strategic and you're smart in what you do, what happens is you start to see benefits that go beyond what you're doing, and that's when it gets fun. That's when it's like, oh, okay, well, even if I just did these few things or didn't do anything today, certain things are going to happen in my account anyway from the momentum that I built up. So we cover that in both the blog post and in the supplemental video on momentum. The next thing we talk about is Twitter chats. I started getting into Twitter chats just recently, really, and I just love them. I mean, it's ridiculous. I love them, I'm actually probably going to create my own Twitter chat for Social Magnets. It'll be hashtag Social Magnets chat, where we can discuss, more detailed, very specific strategies and all these different things around using social media, using it smarter. What are the real tips and tricks to get growth and to do all these things? And not only direct the conversations that need to happen, but also hear from people who are just awesome out there who can share their insight. It's really real-time topical engagement, which is so cool because you can get on the topic and then crowdsource some really smart people, and you can use those to share or to learn, or both, and it can be very powerful. So those are going to be on the uprise. You watch down the road, there's kind of people who've been doing it a little bit, but it's not really that mainstream. But that's going to happen, and it's going to be cool, and there's going to be some cool things that come out of that. Next, I talk about visual content and how that's impacted, how I've been experimenting with visual content to kind of change the way the feeds are laid out and change the mix of media for people, so that there's different people who like to absorb different types of media, and also to set yourself apart and use it as a differentiation tool. So I talk about that in the blog and in the videos, and then I get into content curation, round out the tips section, tips from the beard, where I talk about curation, and this is something that a lot of people don't even really understand, and there's even a lot of people who make opinions about it, but sometimes I feel like, well, maybe they haven't seen the different strategies, because it's just like anything else. It's like automation is a great example. People have strong opinions about they like it or they don't like it. Most people don't like it. But yet when you put it in context, right, there's times when it makes, when elements make sense. I always say, don't automate your engagement, you know, automate your processes so that you are freed up to engage more. There's certain things that can be automated or that you can use tools to do more effectively, so that you're not spending 3 hours on a task, you're spending an hour on that task. Those 2 hours that you save can be reinvested into actually engaging with the people, where there's some things that aren't really, you know, you don't need to do them in real time, or you don't need to invest a whole bunch of time doing tedious things that you could automate and systematize. So we talk a little bit about that. Then we go right into the tools section, and I talk about some of the tools that I've been using with Twitter. I talk about Hootsuite and how I use that more in the video, and why that is simple and powerful. And with most tools, it's not the tools themselves, like, oh, I've heard of Hootsuite, but it's really actually how you set them up and how you use them. It's the little micro hacks and things that you do in how you use them that can make a world of difference in how much you get out of them. And then when you start getting into tool combinations, that's when it gets even crazier, because there's certain things that you can combine and use different tools for to create something that there isn't a current tool to do, and that it'll allow you to do something that the original tools independently weren't intended to do. So there's a lot of smart ways to use tools. And so Hootsuite's one of the tools I use. Twitter Analytics has been something that's really made an impact and that I'm using more and more of to fine-tune my mix and making sure that I'm on target strategically with what I'm doing. Twitonomy is another tool for even, you know, some other interesting and deeper analytics and understanding about your Twitter community and who's promoting you and all this and that. I checked out, there's one Tweet Tales that it was kind of interesting. It was kind of limited in what it did, but it was kind of cool. And I talk about community somewhat. There's some things that are cool there, but there's some reasons why I don't use that system exactly too much. And then I talk about Canva, which is kind of the surprise on there, because it's not a Twitter tool, but when I get into talking about visual content and being able to differentiate yourself, you know, Canva is a great tool to be able to make quick graphics, whether it's to integrate them for things that you're promoting, for quotes, for Twitter chats, for a whole bunch of things. You can really do some cool stuff with that. Then we get into Suprises, and I talk a little bit about some of the things that kind of surprised me, that when I grew the account where it is, the size it is, and with the engagement, that I wasn't really planning on, that kind of happened as an after effect of growing that. And there's some cool ones. I talk about fulfillment, and I talk about what's the difference of managing and having an account with 100,000 followers versus 1,000 or 5,000, and really how you can leverage that and get even more out of it at that point, and a good kind of hopeful goal for people that they want to grow their account, because it's not the same. It's not. Some people actually talk negatively, like, well, I don't want to get past 10,000 because I wouldn't really be engaging. And it's like, no, that's just not true. First of all, there's tons of systems and ways you can do things smarter, but on top of it, the percentage of people that you're actually going to engage with, and the highest quality of the people that you're engaging with on your platform is a very small number compared to the large number. So when you make that number bigger, the quality of people that you get to engage, the very high quality people, that number grows, and that has tremendous impact on your brand and on your network and every other thing that you do. I also talk about the interviews that have come from networking on Twitter and connecting with people, and I've been invited to do interviews and be on panels and different things that I absolutely love, and that have been kind of a byproduct of what I'm doing over there. And then I talk about the power of cross-pollination and what happens when you have a big account and a well-developed community and engagement. What happens when you can take some of that goodness and spill it into a new account that you're going on, or a new platform, and how that really turbocharges your growth. And then we end up with the last part, which is Peeps, which is I highlight some of the awesome people that I engage with on Twitter on a regular basis. You know, there's tons more that I could have made the blog post go on forever talking about the awesome people that I've met, but I highlight some of them, and we're going to probably do a series on the blog and do some interviews. I'm looking at doing a podcast and a Twitter chat and interviews with people, as the brand is Social Magnets. So I'm going to be reaching out to people who I think are social magnets and who have something special about them that makes them stand out online, and we're going to be putting those together and sharing those out. So I look forward to the connections. I want to just say a huge thank you to everybody who's connected with us, who's supported us, who's been encouraging to me, and who's shown love and shared my content and retweeted me and all of this. Like, it just blows me away. You know, that stuff means a lot to me, and to get that kind of positive feedback. You know, I work really hard at trying to share content for people, many who maybe don't reach out to me, but they're following my feed and they're getting some value, or they wouldn't be there, from the time and energy that I'm putting in to try and give them something that's useful and to help them grow as a person, and whatever it is that they're needing from social media. And so, you know, I'm just thankful and appreciative and humbled that you guys are connected with me and that you've reached out to me, and for those people who've invited me to be interviewed, or who have sent me stuff in the mail, you know, books and things like that to read, like that's a big deal. And to me, thoughtfulness is one of the most important traits I find, and that's one of the things I love about social media, is that the cream really rises to the top when it comes to meeting good people, real people. So thank you to everybody. It's been an awesome year. I really feel things are bubbling and are about to spill over with the stuff that I'm doing online, and I'm so excited what the next year is going to hold for me. And we'll see where the follow-up post for this is in a year. I can't wait, and I thank all of you guys.